Hi, everyone. I'm Peter NG, and welcome back to Catching Up, the podcast where conversations don't end when the bell rings. Today, I'm reconnecting with Peyton Stanley, who's now a student living in Gainesville, Florida. From your guest form, it says you transferred schools after the first semester of college. So I'm very interested to hear more about that. You want to introduce yourself, Peyton?
Sure. I'm Peyton Stanley. I was in Mr. NG's class. Feels like forever ago, but also yesterday. I graduated from Timber Creek in 2024, and I'm an APK student.
APK. Let's dive into that one early. What is APK?
APK is Applied Physiology and Kinesiology. So it's essentially the
Ooh, okay.
bachelor's degree that comes before PT school.
Oh, very cool. Nice. All right. So I definitely want to learn more about that as well and see why that was what really inspired you. But if I remember correctly, you graduated 2024. I think you took my class in 2022 as a sophomore. Is that correct?
Yes, I did. Oh my goodness, that was
Okay.
4 years ago. Wow.
I know. Time flies. Time flies. So, okay. So you were, let's say, what, 16, 17 around then? Probably closer to
I
16?
was I was 15.
15. And
I
today
was a
you are
youngin'.
19?
Yes.
Okay. Wow. I can do math. Basic math. Okay. Wow. All right. You kind of already answered this a little bit, but for people listening at home, Peyton was one of my students back in 2022. Um, this was a year after we had our virtual learning year, where like some kids were in person. Were you one of the kids in person in that year?
That year was actually it was a very low year for me because I ended up skipping 8th grade. So the previous year I was 13 years old and went straight to high school and I didn't have
Oh
very many
wow.
friends. So I very much took advantage of the staying home. So I did not go to in-person school until about the last 6 weeks of school because I was very stressed about finals because I was like, I've been home for 7 months and now I have to take finals. Maybe I should actually lock in a little bit more. Um, but yeah, I was only in school for 6 weeks during freshman year, and then we went to summer and then full time in sophomore year when I took your class.
Got you. Okay. So your high school experience was definitely very different from the sounds of it.
Yeah.
Um, not just when you started high school, but even the transition period. Because I feel like it's normal for any freshman to have a learning curve, but your learning curve seems to have been a bit more extreme,
Yeah.
to say the least. Um, why don't we stick with that for a little bit? So, what was the decision to move you into high school early? Was it like an advanced situation?
Yeah, so when I was, like, super young, like, even before kindergarten, because my birthday's in October, I was advanced in preschool, whatever that means. So my parents were considering putting me in private school because they don't have to abide by the birthday cutoff for kindergarten as August. You can enroll your kids early if you want to. But they decided against that because they didn't really think it'd be that big of a deal. But middle school was a breeze for me. And then that last spring break in 7th grade, when we got 2 extra weeks off school that turned into years, my guidance counselor ended up buying a set of patio furniture from my parents, and she came to pick it up. And she was talking about how a kid had done um, 1 year of school in 3 months on FLVS. And I thought
Wow.
to myself, oh, I could do that. And so that summer after 7th grade, from like April to August, um, I did my FLVS core classes and I finished middle school and then I jumped right into high school right after that. So I was 13 years old, about to turn 14, just starting high school just because I wanted to do it. When I look back, I don't think I regret it,
Hmm.
but I don't think it was a bad thing. either. Like, I don't think it was a good thing or a bad thing. I think I just did it. I'm happy to be where I am now. If I was thinking, I
Sure.
think about it all the time. Like, if I was a freshman in college right now, I don't know if I would be as happy as I am now, but that's the unknown. Like, hindsight's 2020. You look back and you look at all your decisions and you can analyze them more
Yeah,
now.
of course. And I mean, I think that's a very good mindset to have with this because I've had a lot of students over the years who are dead set on finishing high school as soon as possible or as fast as possible. And sometimes it works perfectly for them and they get a head start where they want to. Other times I tell them, like, you're kind of losing out on some of the innocence that this time of your life has. Yes, there's still stress in high school. There's always going to be things that you have to like worry about and whatever. But this is one of the last opportunities, really, for most people, that you don't have to worry about a lot of adult things, and you can just say, I just want to worry about prom, or like whose party are we going to? I don't know, teenage stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that it's something that you've thought about and you've reflected about, and it sounded like something that it's not a regret or anything, but it was a decision made, and here you are today. Which, speaking of today, I have a segment that I like to do at the start of the episode. And the segment is, what have you learned today? So I can start us off, or you can start if you'd like.
Um,
Doesn't have to be anything like hyper academic or like, I mean, you are doing something pretty intense from a school's perspective, so you can certainly teach me something. But it could also just be like, I was watching a TikTok and I learned this today.
I in my social psych class this morning, we were focusing on attraction and personality and how those go hand in hand.
Mm,
Attraction wise, you are more likely to date one of your best friends because of proximity and building that friendship without tension first. And personality wise, you are more likely to be with someone who has a different personality type as you. And then we did the 16 personalities test,
hmm
and I am an ENTJ. That's what I learned this morning.
ENTJ.
Yeah.
Do you know what those letters stand for? I know some of them.
Um, it's basically my personality type is a leader and a commander, and I'm most
Okay.
similar to Steve Jobs.
Oh. Okay. See, I thought they were like it was like an acronym where it was like
I thought so too.
extrovert and I don't know what N would be, I guess. Uh neocortex. I don't know. I don't know. But
I
okay,
did
that's
come
good to
back
know.
very yeah, I did come back my it shows you like a scale, and on the extroversion scale, I was like all the way extroverted. I'm
Oh, okay.
very,
Did you feel
very
like that
outgoing.
matched your personality?
Oh, 1000%. Definitely now. Maybe not when I was in your class. I feel like I didn't say very much when I was in your class.
I don't think you were shy. I mean, I've definitely had a spectrum of students, some that say four words the entire school year and others that are very talkative. I think you were like, I'll put you, if one is not saying a word and 10 is like class clown, I'll put you at like a 5.5,
Okay. I say
which
I'm
is
probably
about
like
average.
I'd say I'm probably like an 8.5 or 9 now. Like
Wow, okay.
I will go talk to anybody, especially like with my working a lot
hmm
more now. I like have to talk to people and I enjoy it. So I'm not afraid to
Oh,
go talk
okay.
to anybody at all.
Cool. Well, I'm definitely curious more about that as well. I'll quickly share what I've learned today. I've been trying to read more. It's something I've always enjoyed doing. It's more so the issue of time for me, where when I have free time, I find myself watching TV or playing video games as my source of entertainment. Whereas reading, I feel like I need to be in a position where it's like I'm dedicating time to just this. Um, and I've been reading a book recently that was recommended to me called A People's History of the US by Howard Zinn. And it's been a really insightful book. It goes into a lot of the history of the United States, as the name is implied. And something I learned today, I had some general knowledge of this when I took high school history classes, like AP US history, but I wasn't aware that the indigenous tribes that lived in the states, they had many of their tribes had a very progressive mindset regarding how women were treated, where women were often viewed as equals or had positions in their council, and there are even certain tribes where women took over as chieftains. And that was pretty insightful because as what we've learned, I think there's the mindset of these people were quote unquote savages, and clearly that's not the case. But it's always a good thing to learn a little bit more about our background as a nation. So that was the part that kind of stood out to me.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk a little more about you piqued my interest with the job thing. So you're currently in Gainesville. Are you at UF?
I am at Santa Fe, so we can get
Santa
to that
Fe.
when
Okay.
we talk about school. Is when I was transferring, I didn't have
Yep.
enough credits to go to a state school, but we can get into that when
Yeah,
we
yeah.
get to the school thing.
Okay, so you're currently at Santa Fe, and
Yeah,
are you currently also working?
I am. I actually
Okay.
just started a new job after 3 years of working at Publix and hating it.
Oh wow, congratulations.
I'm free. It
I've
wasn't that
heard
bad.
mixed results for a lot of people, but hey, pays
hmm
the bills. So what's the job you're doing now, if I don't you don't mind me asking?
So right now, I just started working at Buckle. It's like a Western clothing store, but the shopping experience at Buckle is very different. So instead of just like being an employee, we are labeled as like stylists. So
Mm.
when people come in to the store, we have to almost be a personal shopper for them, which some people appreciate and some people just want to be left alone, which I totally get. So it's hard to read people, but what people don't realize and what I never realized is when you go to a Buckle, we have over 1,000 different pairs of jeans.
A
And so
thousand
when
different pair of jeans.
yes,
Oh my
because
god.
when
Okay.
people come in looking for jeans, they don't realize that for women specifically, we have 8 different styles, and each of those styles has 3 different rises, 4 different lengths, 8 different washes, and then so many different sizes. So
What
you
was the
could like
training like for this job? I mean,
oh my goodness, I watched so many videos and followed so many people around, and on my first day, we don't carry all of the different kinds in store, but every single kind of jean that we carry in store, I had to try on. So I was there for 8 hours trying on
just
every
to
single
get a
pair of
feel
jeans.
for the
Yeah.
difference.
It
Wow.
was very I've had never seen anything like it before, but it's honestly a great experience. On my first day there, I was working in a pair with another girl, and like the buckle experience is honestly a great one if you're willing to like let us help you, because not only will we pull you jeans, like we also pull you some shirts to go with it, some shoe options, and we're very like encouraging and like because a lot of people come in like it's 2025. I don't know anybody who loves themselves that much.
Sure. Yeah.
So when people come in, they often are like, I'll give an example. I had a lady come in yesterday. I was like, "What jean size are we wearing today?" And she said, "Honestly, I have no idea. I wear men's jeans. I buy them from Walmart."
Mm.
And she was just very not confident at all. But when I grabbed her some jeans and some tops to go with it, she came out of the fitting room and she was like smiling, like she was
Yeah.
happy, but she felt like she almost wanted to hide it. But you could tell she felt good about herself. And that's really like what we want to do. And I had never seen that before from a clothing store because most times you go in, you try on 50 things, you like none of them, and you leave.
Yeah, I mean, I think in most big store brands, the employees, their job is primarily restocking and
Yeah.
checking out.
hmm
And yes, they'll help you if you ask for help or they'll greet you or whatever, but it's not meant to be or feel very personal in that
Not at
sense.
all.
Um, are you familiar with Queer Eye and like the cast of Queer Eye?
I'm not a TV person at all
Okay, that's
or a
perfectly
movie
fine.
person.
But your experience reminds me of one of the guys on the show. His name's Tan. He is their fashion guy. And so often when he's helping somebody, it was just like that simple moment of finding clothing that fit somebody and it was styled correctly, and you could see emotionally and physically a difference in the person. I haven't had anything remotely close to that, but when I was in at UCF, I was working at Nike on iDrive, and they did a pretty thorough training for us. They, I'm not going to call it a cult because shoe people and sneakerheads, it's like that's a really
Yeah.
deep thing. But they
Yeah.
had us do like a really thorough training, and when I became like a shoe, when I was moved into the shoe department, I had to know the differences between all these different types of sneakers, and in a similar sense to what you're talking about, it was meant to be more personalized. Yes, if a customer was like, I don't really want your help, you don't press them. But yeah, we were supposed to ask all sorts of questions and all sorts of style knowledge and everything, and that goes a long way. So that's really cool that you've had that opportunity to experience that. And I have one last question on the topic of buckle. If I were to go in there,
Mhm.
do you think you'd be able to find something for me, just a full outfit?
Oh, absolutely. 1000%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I am a
1000%.
size 14 shoe, just to keep that in mind. If I don't know if y'all sell boots there.
We do, and I think in store we might go up to a 12 or 13, but I would tell you out of the fitting room, we can order it. We can order
Ah,
whatever
that's
you want.
true. Okay, that's a good salesman and saleswoman. Okay, all right, I can appreciate that. Okay, that's very cool. I've never heard of this place before, but I mean, it sounds like it's fitting a market that you know people want and people look for. And I'll be honest, I have a couple pair of jeans, and I don't know heads from tails as far as the brand quality and the material and the wash. I just know that hey, one says straight, one says skinny, one says athletic, and that's
Yeah.
kind of the gist
Yeah.
of it for me.
Yeah,
Um,
when people come in, we want it to be brainless. We just want them like even if they don't know their size, we're like, "We'll pull some for you, and if it doesn't work, we'll get you more." Like, don't think about a thing, let us do it. And I think that saves people the stress of like guessing, "Do I like
mhm,
this? Do I not?" And then you got to figure out if you like what you have, and then at a normal store if you don't like it, you have to come out of the fitting room, go find more and go back, but at Buckle
right,
we do
right.
everything for you. So it's just mindless and you just get to like relax and enjoy your experience.
Okay. Well, if I'm ever in Gainesville, I mean, I know my wife likes that type of stuff too. I'll have to propose it to see if
Let
we
me
can
know.
stop by. Okay. Well, let's pivot to kind of the main talking point of this podcast, which is reflection, and getting an opportunity to look back and also look ahead to where we're at today. Um, when you think back to yourself in high school, we can use my class, you can use other moments in high school. Is there a moment that stands out to you from that time period?
Um, considering like the fact that I didn't have very many friends up until about well, sophomore year I met my best friend and she goes to school here.
Oh,
Um
perfect.
yeah, so up until then when I met her and we didn't really start hanging out outside of school until junior year. I didn't really have many friends. I just went to school, went home. Like, I also didn't really like love myself either because I was
Mhm.
alone and like I wore the same thing every day. You probably noticed I had a different band shirt for every day and like the same pair of jeans, two of them, and I just would just wear that every day. I would be quiet, went to school,
Mhm.
came home, and there was a lot of things that also like played into that being younger. Like junior year I was still 15, so I was taking the bus. So I
Mhm.
couldn't drive like the rest of everybody else. Um Senior year I was 17. So when people were going to bounce once they turned 18, I couldn't go, which that didn't really bother me because I didn't really want to go. But I will say, senior year, there was like a core moment in Miss Stevens' class. Um, the group of girls that I was sitting at the table with, we finally made a group chat to help each other out, and there's 8 of us, and it's called 8 Man, and I still talk to
Mhm.
them to this day. Um, and we were all like, we need to hang out outside of school. So over Christmas break, we all went to dinner together. And I think that's when I locked in like my
Mhm.
friend group. I had never been a part of like a friend group. And then in class on Valentine's Day, we all brought stuff. And it was, I like, I always found like with friends, I either had to be like too pushy to like hang out or whatever, or like plan things, or like I just didn't do anything at all. But with them, it was like we all had the same mindset. We all wanted to hang out. We all worked to make a plan when, where, like it was all equal effort. Like we all wanted to be friends.
Sure.
We all matched very well. And every time we go home, I text the group chat and we go hang out, even if it's not all of us. But I think that core moment of forming like a real friend group was huge for me. And I think that's what honestly brought me out of my shell and made me extroverted, because I had real close friends who I could just text, I'm going to Dutch Bros. Do you want to come? I'll come get you.
Mhm.
And there's like no coercion, no like, please, like, I don't want to go. No, it was always just a yes. And it was probably the best thing that could have happened to me in high school to prepare me to go to college to make new friends.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think I've had similar experiences regarding friendships in my past, and there is something very special about meeting someone or meeting a group of people where it just instantly clicks, and you feel like everyone's engaged, everyone's involved, everyone's eager to want to see each other. It's a two-way street. Friendship is something that requires both parties participating and willing to do that. I'm usually the type of person that likes to be the planner and say like, "Hey, let's do
Me
this," and I
too.
don't mind taking the load on that. But I can't lie. It's nice to have someone who you care about take that role every once in a while and say, "Hey, I'm
Yeah.
thinking of you, and you're in town. Let's do something, etc."
Hmm.
So I'm really glad that you had that opportunity. Your story actually reminded me of last year. I had a group of kids, awesome kids. They sat in a group together and they met each other through my class. So they didn't know each other prior, but they clicked pretty early into the school year. And I think it was Christmas. They all decided to do like a Secret Santa, and they all bought different gifts for the person they had, and they did the gift exchanging class. And I'm just sitting there watching, and I'm like, oh, that's so nice. I
Yeah.
I don't know if they would have had that opportunity to meet and express that level of companionship outside of my class. And I'm glad my classroom setting at least, was able to provide that.
Yeah.
Um, so that's awesome. That's good to hear. When you think back to, or continuing to think back in that time, what's something that you felt confident about? So you expressed your newfound confidence that you developed in your senior year, but prior to that awakening, let's call it, or exposure, what was something that you felt really strong about yourself?
Honestly, there wasn't a lot, because I was just, I don't wanna say struggling because I don't wanna make it sound like I was, like, really, really, like, struggling, because I don't think that's the right word, but
Mhm.
I just didn't really do a lot for myself the beginning of high school. But I will say, right before junior year, I was very unhappy with myself, and I think I was just very insecure about the way that I looked. So
Mhm.
I started to lose weight and exercise more and get healthier, and then I think that um really helped bring me out. But the thing that I was probably like proudest of for myself was consistency,
Mhm.
because I did it for 2 years
Yeah,
consistently and it worked and people noticed. And when people notice, you feel good even better
for
than you could
sure.
make yourself feel about it. Like, cuz you can tell yourself all these things, right? But you're not going to
Right.
believe it. But the second somebody else notices, you're like, what I'm doing is working. And that's
Mhm.
almost a compliment to your consistency, that okay, I've been doing it. I can keep doing it. It's working. it's worth the effort. So
Yeah,
I probably would say I'm like the most confident in my consistency when I'm doing something specific, and it started specifically with like the losing weight and getting healthier, and then I felt better about myself as a result, which is just a plus on top of that.
of course. And I think something like weight loss or weight management in general, because you also see the other side of things where there's kids that are trying to gain weight.
Yeah.
Um, it's a journey. It's a marathon. I've certainly had my fair share of experiences with that, and like you said, I think the hardest part is noticing when things are getting better. I mean, it's very
Hmm.
easy to step on a scale and see numerical differences, which is useful, but you see yourself in the mirror every single day.
Yeah.
Those minute changes or those smaller changes are not as quick to detect, but others who don't see you so often, that's when it really starts to stand out. And yeah, it's an incredible boost to your uh, your sense of self and how confident you feel. Um, so that honestly answered my next question. My next question was going to say if you felt like there was anything that really you didn't feel as confident about. So, you kind of addressed that. From an academic perspective, did you feel like school was, I don't know, easy to you?
I will say, unfortunately, yes,
Mm.
because I never studied. I did all my homework in school. I treated school like a 9 to 5. I got everything done while I was there, and when I went home I clocked out because I didn't have to, which honestly backfired when I got to
Hmm.
college because I had no idea how to study, and when things weren't easy anymore, it was really frustrating because I didn't know how to study at all. Um but in high school, school was unfortunately very easy for me. Miss Stevens' class was probably the first class that introduced me to like hardcore learning to study. But I was still able to like thug my way through it without having
Sure.
to like work
Yeah.
that hard.
I think it's something that, I express this to every single class that I ever teach. I know that there's a lot in school where kids feel like this is a waste of time. Why are we doing this? When are we going to use this? I going through it myself, and now you going through it, I've always said the same thing. It's the point of high school is meant. There's much larger topics of like what we should ideally be teaching and things of that nature, but ideally, or the best thing you can be doing is learning how to learn
Hmm.
and or how to study. That's not a skill that comes naturally to everyone.
No,
And people like yourself who I can confidently say have a good intellect on your in your shoulders, above your shoulders. Like you're a naturally smart person. High school is not difficult. It,
no,
it
it's
becomes
not.
very much a okay, let me finish all this busy work, let me complete all these
Yeah,
tasks.
it becomes a
And
routine.
it's a routine, and you occasionally hit small difficulty spikes like SATs or like Miss Stevens class that you were mentioning. But most of it, if you have any semblance of time management and again, a little smarter than your average bear, it's not that bad.
No.
And then the real shock hits with college, and that's the part that is very unfortunate. Our schools love to promote the fact that we have 98, 99% graduation rates, and that's awesome, but we're not simultaneously talking about the percentage of freshman students that are dropping out of college.
Hmm.
And you yourself have had some similar results or stories that are connected to that, which we're about to get to. um, I guess while we're here, this is kind of what my next topic was. The original intention of this question is meant to be high school, but I'm very curious about what happened that freshman year of college. So the question is, what was a challenge you had to push through? So you mentioned in your form that you had to transfer college or colleges within your first year, right out of high school. So if you don't mind sharing, what happened?
Yeah, so um the one of the state schools in Florida, UNF, does this event called Apply in July. So it is usually Common App opens in August. but UNF has their own separate application that opens in July. So I applied because I had toured in June, loved it. They made me feel like I was like the best thing since sliced bread. Like I felt very like oh, they really like me here. So I applied. I got in July. I was 16 years old. Um, and then they gave me a scholarship. They gave me direct admit, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is it. This is it. I was like, okay, everybody else is going to like these big schools, but like I think I'm gonna like it here. I want to be different. Um, they're giving me
UNF
all
is a
these
beautiful campus for what
opportunities.
it's worth.
It
I grew up in
is.
North Florida, and I'm very familiar with the area. It's nice.
Yeah, it's a beautiful campus. So 16 years old, pretty much at that point, I was applying to other schools, but in the back of my mind, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go here. Like I already know. So then when it rolled around to decision time, I decided to go there over the summer, bought all my stuff, packed up everything, moved in August. Found my roommates on Instagram, moved in, everything was good first couple weeks. And then second week of college, I got into a car accident.
Wow.
Somebody T-boned me, um, totaled my car. And then from that point on, it was very much like struggle bus. Um,
Was there
so
any
I had
physical
to.
damage from that?
I was in physical therapy for 4 months until I left.
Wow. Yeah.
And in that sense, it was also like I had to Uber to work. I had just gotten a new job coaching youth sports, but it was down in Ponte Vedra Beach. So an Uber down to Ponte Vedra was like $70 and I was only making 35.
No.
So
Yeah.
I had to quit that job. I was still working at Publix, but not working very much because I couldn't afford to pay for the Uber to make the money at work. And I also had to pay for Ubers to PT because my roommates at the time we were not friends. We didn't really get along that well. So that was unfortunate. Everything just kind of fell apart. And then there was one weekend, uh, late-ish October. I had a boyfriend at the time, and he came to visit, and we were going to drive to Gainesville to watch a football game. I was staying with my friend, he was staying with his friends. So I got to stay in a UF dorm. I tailgated at the frats. I went to the football game. We went out after. And I had never experienced anything like that. And me being a very extroverted person, I was like, wow, I did not know that this is a life that I could be living because currently at the time I was in a school with roommates I didn't like where it's called a suitcase school. Everybody goes home on the weekends. So
Right.
there was nothing to do, nowhere to go out, no football, like
Hey, for what it's
boring.
worth, UNF has a pretty good basketball team,
That is
but
true. I
I
did.
know it's not the same
It's not the
level of
same as because I love
atmosphere.
football too, like, especially being a sports photographer in high school, being at a game
Mhm.
every single Friday to nothing.
Yeah.
I was in Gainesville and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, wow, I'm really accepting the bare minimum for myself," because most people that go to UNF, like, I was in the top 10% of admits. Most people that go to UNF, that was their reach school. It was either
Mm,
that or community college, and they wanted to go to state school. So when I got there, I had the mentality of, what can I do next? What can I do more? I want to push myself. What can I do? And everybody else there was like, I made it. I did it. I'm done.
sure.
And so that was a little bit of a struggle because I was just surrounded by people who I didn't think I was any better than them, but I just had a different mentality than they did. So that one weekend when I was in Gainesville, I realized I was like, I need to do something about this. I don't want to stay here anymore. And that was in October. It was the Kentucky game. We beat them by 50. And I was like, wow, this is a real sense of community
Yeah.
that I
Something was
want to be
speaking
in.
to you.
Yes, very much so. And so
Okay.
that weekend, I called my mom and I was like, "I'm gonna be in so much trouble. They just moved me in here. They just set me up with everything." I called her and I was like, "Hey, mom." She's like, "Hey, how are you?" I was like, "I'm good. I think I wanna transfer." And she's like, "Okay." And I was like, "No, like, follow-up questions?" She's like, "I coulda told you that 3 months ago when you got
Oh,
there, but I wanted you to make your own decisions." And I was like,
I
"Come
think that's good
on."
parenting. I think,
I
letting
do
you
too.
learn.
I do
Yeah.
too, because I wasn't gonna, like, it wasn't a mistake,
No.
it was a gentle nudge, it's a learning experience, and she was like, "You can transfer, but you gotta do it on your own. Like, I will help you, but I'm not gonna do it for you."
Right.
So I was looking at my options, and no state school in Florida will really accept you if you don't have 60 credits or an AA. And I was only one
Mm.
semester into college, so state school was like out of the question. So it was community college. So it was TCC in Tallahassee, Santa Fe here, or Valencia at home. And I love my parents so very much. I don't want to be at home. I love them. I
Once
love
you get
coming to
that
visit my.
taste of freedom,
Yeah,
there's cabin fever that kicks in. We all
yeah.
love returning home for a little while, but then you're like, all right, guys, hey, look at the clock. I gotta go.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm going home this weekend to visit. But yeah, I was like, I don't want to be home. My parents would love to have me home. They
I'm
want me to
sure.
live at
Yeah.
home. I was because they lived at home during college, so like that's what they know. Um, but I was like, I don't want to do that. And Tallahassee's really, really far, and I liked Gainesville, so I
Right.
applied. This was in December. Applied for classes. Got the congratulations, you've been accepted. You just sign up.
Yeah. Right.
Sign up for classes, and then I was like, "Okay, here's the hard part. I need somewhere to live." And there's a huge housing crisis here. Like,
Right.
nobody can find anywhere to live. So I'm scrolling on Facebook, and I sign a lease blind off of Facebook Marketplace. Didn't
Okay.
look at it, just signed the lease.
It's pretty risky.
Yep. Got put in the group chat with my new roommates. They seemed nice. And on January 5th, I showed up here, moved in, and it was the best decision I have ever made.
I'm glad the risk paid off.
Oh, it did.
Sometimes
It definitely did.
gambling in that circumstance can pay off some big
1000%.
dividends.
Yeah.
Okay.
In my head, I was like, I looked up the building. It was student housing, and like everything was it was legit, but I didn't go tour, I didn't look at anything, nothing. Just signed it off of Facebook and showed up, and as in my head I was like, it can't get any worse than it already is. So,
Right. I'll die on this
YOLO.
hill that if there's ever anyone who's never been to the States before and wants to really experience quote unquote American culture, because I know that there's a lot of things where it's like, oh, like what you guys do in the States is just from this country, or this food comes from that country.
Yeah.
Fine. But the number one thing that you don't see anywhere else is like that tailgate culture around
Mhm.
football. And I know like soccer is a huge, wildly popular sport internationally. However, I still think it pales in comparison to like the all day event
Absolutely.
that college football, especially, turns into. And I mean, I went to UCF not knowing a lick about college football. I went to one high school game when I was in high
Mhm.
school, and it just took my first college game for me to say, "Oh, this is it."
Yeah.
So I get it. I get
Mhm.
it. It's very addicting, and the camaraderie of it all
Yeah.
is a lot for sure. So while we're here, let's take a little pivot. I have my next signature moment. We're still kind of sticking with our high school theme, but our next segment here is what would you tell your past self? So if you had to talk to Peyton of I guess 14, because when you took my class, you were right around
I
14,
was
right?
14.
So let's say 14, 15-year-old Peyton, and you had an opportunity to sit in front of yourself. What would you tell yourself?
Mm. I think the way that I went about living my life post that point was exactly what I needed to do. Everything that's happened to me, I'm a huge believer in everything happens for a reason. So I think everything that I did from that point was perfect. Not that it was
Sure.
like good, bad, but like I learned the lessons I needed to. Something I probably would have told myself is maybe I wish I would have like started earlier, like push like do what you want to do. Like you're not that I was like wasting time, but like why wait? Like
Yeah.
do it
Don't be
now.
afraid.
Yeah, do it now. And also, probably I would tell myself that I would tell myself nobody's looking at you. Do what you want to do. Like
Yeah.
nobody's staring at you judging you sitting there at lunch because you're like eating your sandwich and you like got some food on your face. Like no one's looking at you. Just
Right.
live your life, embarrass yourself. People are so not okay with embarrassment.
I do it
Embarrassment.
all the time.
Yeah.
I almost on a daily basis. My wife can attest to this. I almost on a daily basis embarrass myself,
Yeah.
and honestly, it's very easy for me to at this age in my life. It's very easy for me to kind of go with the punches almost and say like it's I'm just having fun.
Yeah. I think more people need to embarrass themselves. I really do. Like break the routine. When someone asks you, "Hey, how are you?" Don't say good. Say, "Nah, not great." Like break the
Yeah,
routine. Actually be real. Don't follow the standard. Like embarrass yourself or not even embarrass yourself. Find like do the things that people would think are like that's embarrassing. Just
sure,
do it.
but it
Do
also
what you
opens
want
up
to do.
conversation. You know,
Absolutely.
it allows for more human interaction than just default answers.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
like that. Do you think your younger version of yourself would have trusted your advice
Um,
at that stage of where you were?
at that stage of where I was, considering it was myself speaking to her and
Hmm.
I knew how that the next 4 years was going to play out, I would probably believe myself. But if it was someone else, like an outside source just telling me that, I'd probably be like, you know nothing. Like,
Yeah,
whatever.
whatever.
Like it's just some advice. Take it or leave it.
Okay, that's
Take what
understandable.
resonates, leave the rest.
Okay, got you. Okay, so with our last couple minutes here, I always think it's a good idea to, not just focus on the reflection, but also identify where things are headed. You earlier mentioned that you're going in the PT route, or that's what you're hoping to do. So, how about you share with us a little bit about what you're actively working on?
Um, Currently, right now, I am working on just completing all of my prereqs to apply to the UF like APK program. And as a backup, I'm also completing my prereqs to apply to the Santa Fe nursing program. So
Hmm,
that either way, if one doesn't work out, I get to stay here. And I don't have to move again.
that'd be
um,
nice. Okay.
yeah. So I'm working on that. I'm also working on my mom because she is really concerned about the future logistics and career growth opportunities for PT
Mm.
because she's been doing a lot of research for me. I get an article sent to me every day.
That's
um,
parents.
yeah, it's looking like a lot of PTs experience burnout because their salary caps out at about 110. Whereas,
Right.
like, if you go into other medical professions, there's room for a lot of growth. But in PT, post 10 years, your salary really caps and they
Hmm.
feel a lot of burnout. And it's not because of the money, but it's just the incentive to keep working and enjoying your job. Obviously, there's monetary value in that. Um, but when that goes away, they often get burnt out. So she's a little
Right.
worried about that, which is why I'm considering going into nursing and switching to labor and delivery or OB, going that
Okay.
route. So that would be my backup and honestly what she would prefer, but APK is just that's what I love. It's what I've told everybody I wanted to do since middle school, and I have yet to change my mind. So,
Okay, so you're still keeping the door open. I mean, you're
yeah,
still evaluating some options. There's clearly, the APK side of things and the physical therapy side of things seems to be more of a passion than anything else. I can say this much from experience. I'm not someone with a DPT or anything, but I have a lot of friends who are, and I have also friends who are nurses as well. You're 100% right. I know where your mom comes from with stuff like this, and I think it's valid that a parent's like,
yeah,
"Hey, I don't want you to be freaking out when you have this degree, and you're in that stage of
yeah,
life." I think from my friends who do this profession, compared to other jobs, yeah, it's certainly not bad pay. However, for the amount of schooling
hmm,
and for the cost of said schooling, which is a major factor for sure, oftentimes you're studying as much as, if not close to, what an MD is studying,
yep,
and you're making a fraction of what they're making.
hmm,
Now, yes, work life balance is a big deal, especially for PTs. One of my best friends, he's a PT, and he gets to spend a lot of time with his daughter, and he has a more 9 to 5 type schedule. He doesn't get called to hospitals,
yep,
but yes, the pay limit is very real. And nurses are certainly a profession that, similar to teachers, I think are almost put into a martyrdom position of sacrifice for the greater good.
hmm,
And there's no such thing as a perfect job, but
yeah,
finding something that brings you fulfillment, finding something that brings you joy and simultaneously can provide you with the necessary income that you want to live your life with, I think is something we can obtain. It's something that is reasonable to reach for. So I think it's a good idea to have those options in your back pocket. But
yeah,
ultimately, I wouldn't, my 2 cents, I wouldn't be afraid of pursuing what is the passion. What's the
hmm,
thing that keeps the fire alive for you? Um, my final question, because I don't want to take you too long. When we were in school, growth is often evaluated by binary standards. What letter grade did you get on this test?
hmm.
Are you showing up to class on time? Very much things that can be checked on a box. You are still in school, but do you feel like now, especially with the turmoil that you've had to endure, do you feel like growth is evaluated differently for you now?
Yeah. Coming from high school, I was very much a rule follower. Go to school, take the test, get an A, come home. It's expected. Do it all again the next day. That kind of thing. But now being in college where it's not like a Monday through Friday 7:20 to 2:20 and I have more time to myself, a lot of growth that I evaluate within myself comes outside of academics. Just recently this year I like this starting 2026. So it's only been a couple months, but I started like speaking to a therapist and it has been wonderful. Like,
Yeah.
people it was like, would advocate for that now. Like, I always thought, "Oh, like, my problems aren't that bad." Like, it's not that bad. But, honestly, there's just so much underlying stuff that you don't even realize attributes to what you're going through and how you feel right now. Like, it even got to the point where I got clinically diagnosed with OCD, like, which that was huge for me because it
Mhm.
like, growth comes from learning more about yourself and ways you can adjust your life to maximize your personality, your strengths, and almost not put away or like deal with your weaknesses, but how to use them and adjust them to how that best works for your lifestyle. Like, I know that I'm an extroverted people person, but when I'm with certain people and I like see something happening that I'm like clicks my OCD on and I'm like, I don't like that. I wouldn't do it that way. I'm having a hard time focusing because this is happening over here. Especially speaking to a therapist, like, growth for me and that mindset is just realizing like everybody's living their own life. It's okay not to have control.
Yeah,
over everything. So that's probably been the biggest growth for me is honestly that diagnosis has felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders. Not that I use it as an excuse for the way I am, but I use it as my reasoning and how to adjust and grow.
of course. And I think there's something so valuable about speaking to somebody who doesn't have a former background with you, as far as
Yeah.
they're not, there's no bias involved of friendship or relationship or parenthood. You know, it's important to talk to all those people regardless, but
Yeah.
having someone who you can just be your honest, earnest self
Mhm.
fully, and they can actually provide you with genuine feedback. That's something that, you know, my generation, we were certainly a little more stigmatized against this, and I think
Mhm.
with your generation it's been a little easier to say, hey, it's not that big of a deal, you know, more people should be
Yeah.
okay trying this out. And nowadays I think it's pretty rare to find someone that's like, oh, I would never, you know. I feel like that's like, all
Yeah.
right, dude, that
Yeah.
we're not in the early 2000s anymore.
Yeah. Well, I
So
mean,
it's changed.
yeah, growing up, that's why I think why it took so long is growing up, like my parents are immigrants. They grew up in a small, like rural town where like everybody knew everybody. Like therapy was like
Yeah.
they didn't even know what a cucumber was. Like that's how they didn't know what a cucumber was until the 90s because
There's
they
no
didn't
cucumbers
grow
in
there.
Canada.
Well, in Newfoundland, no.
Oh,
There used
wow.
to be this
Okay.
giant greenhouse that they started growing cucumbers in that you could see from any point in the city. It was so bright.
Uh,
And then it went
okay.
away. But they didn't know what cucumbers were. So like they're almost 30 years behind where we are now progressive wise. So when they
Yeah,
came
yeah.
here, they like growing up, it was the mentality like when I was like something would bother me, like I was always told like that's just the way it is. Like you have to learn to deal with it and get over it.
Mhm.
Which I honestly think toughing it out, like that's exposure therapy. That works. But sometimes toughing it out isn't like the best and only way to go about it. So I think that's why it took me so long to get diagnosed. And I don't blame my parents for that at all.
Yeah.
They wanted me to not fall back on something so early to use it as a crush. Like, oh, I have OCD. That's why. It's an excuse. They didn't want me to use that as an excuse for anything. But definitely now, like, I'm an adult. I was able to go get that diagnosis on my own. Like, my parents are happy that I did that. And they're like very supportive of me and like me seeing a therapist. And I talked to
Mhm.
my mom about it. And she's very like so she'll ask me like, "Oh, how was therapy today? Like what'd you talk about? Was it good? Did you enjoy it?
That's
Like
awesome.
what'd you learn?" Like they're very, very open and like supporting about it. So it's great.
Awesome. That's great to hear. That sounds like a healthy relationship, especially with your folks as well. But as we're getting to the end here, do you have any final statements or closing statements you wanted to share?
I think I mentioned this in my when I filled out my form. I'm a planner, obviously part of the OCD. Your 5-year plan can get thrown out the window in half a second. It takes one decision to change your life. And I'm only 19, so that was a very small change, but like in everything in your life, just go about it like move with intention. Like make your decisions intentionally. Think about what you want and even if you're like unhappy, don't be afraid to make a decision. I've dealt with this a lot before in um just relationships and like with friends, like people now are so afraid to like hurt their own feelings or hurt somebody else's feelings that no one can ever just clearly concisely say yes or no. It's
Hmm.
always a maybe, I'll see, I'll get to it, I don't know. But people need to be more upfront with just make the decision. You know what you want deep down. If you flip a coin picking heads or tails, you
Right.
know what you want it to land on when it's in the air.
Yeah.
So I think just make the decision, and it's okay to throw your 5-year plan out the window. Like change your life, do something crazy, like just it's okay to not follow the plan and do something different.
Okay. I like that, Peyton. I mean, for someone who's had to change her plan quite a bit, it sounds like you have a very good ability to adapt said plan and to go with the flow and recognize that things are going to change in life and that is a normal. Very, very, very rarely are things going to be so planned out and so explicit like we hope they are going to be. And unfortunately, life doesn't work like that. So
No.
if you're willing to have that flexible mindset and just kind of be like the water, I guess, if you want to use some old Taoism type
Mhm.
language,
Mhm.
and just be willing to move and be willing
Yeah.
to shift. With that said, we're really hitting time here. I'll kind of close up here. I really appreciate you spending some time with me. Thank you for being here and for catching up with me today. For everyone else, thank you for listening to Catching Up, where conversations continue beyond the classroom. I'll see you next time.